Hi, it's Kipin Lobates here, and today's video is for Kate Suominen, and she asked me if I could look into the Pi network. Now, I'm not just going to look at the Pi network, I'm also going to touch on some different concepts in blockchain, because of course we also want to learn something here, not just find out about one particular proposed cryptocurrency. But to begin with, what is the Pi network? Well, it's a proposed cryptocurrency put forward by a group of Stanford PhDs and an MBA, and in order to join it you download an app from an app store, Google Play or the Apple one, whatever that's called, and then you have to open the app every day and tap on a button in order to, in quotes, mine some coins. And the Pi network is said to be based on the Stellar blockchain. Now, Pi's been around for a year or so. Stellar's been around for quite a bit longer than that. And Stellar is a blockchain that replaces Bitcoin proof of work with something known as Federated Byzantine Agreement. Now, there is no way that I can explain Federated Byzantine Agreement in a short video walking through the forest. I've read a bunch of papers on it, and it's complicated. If you think that proof of work is complicated, well, that's nothing compared to Federated Byzantine Agreement. I'll try and summarize it very, very quickly. The idea between FBA is that you have a bunch of nodes that have votes. They form subgroups, which are known as quorums. They propose to add transactions or take actions on the blockchain, and then they conduct rounds and rounds of votes in order to finally agree. And the voting is not just a simple yes or no vote. They actually give indications of how they might vote in order to slowly move towards a consensus. Now, when I say slowly, this is the computing world, so the computers typically reach agreement in about 5 or so seconds. But there are lots and lots of rounds, and quite honestly, if you go and look at the papers on it, you'll see flow diagrams with 10 or 15 boxes in them explaining which states various nodes can be in. So it's not simple. It makes the British Conservative Party leadership election procedure look like a walk in the park. But on the plus side, it doesn't require the burning of immense amounts of energy in order to secure the network. So Stellar is what the Pi network is going to base its blockchain on. And that leads me to the first thing about Pi, is that there is actually no mainnet. They haven't launched the blockchain that will instantiate the Pi coins yet. There's a test net that allows people to try out how it's going to function and allows the developers to build out the functionality, but the main blockchain doesn't yet exist. So what does that mean then if you have the app on your phone and you are, in quotes, mining Pi coins? Well, it means that the Pi network company has a database where they are recording how many coins you have managed to mine, with the intention being that when the main net finally launches at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, that database will be used in order to determine how many coins to mint and who they should be allocated to. So if you're joining the Pi network, you're already assuming that this company is going to succeed and that they will actually honor that. I would guess, based on a reputation issue, that they probably will, but there is of course no guarantee. At this stage, there is not decentralized true ownership of Pi coins. So this leads me on to the next thing, which is the question of Sybil attacks, and I'll quickly recap what they are. A Sybil attack is when a malicious entity creates a lot of fake accounts in order to game a system. And an example would be a manufacturer of a shoddy product decides to sell it on Amazon, and they use a Sybil attack to promote it. They create hundreds or thousands of fake Amazon accounts, and they use them to write glowing reviews for the lousy product. That's a kind of Sybil attack, and Amazon takes steps in order to prevent this kind of thing from happening. You see it in Facebook as well. Lots of fake accounts spreading fake news on particular political issues. It's a real problem in the computing world, and in blockchain it's a problem because if you have a blockchain system where one node has one vote, then people can game the system by spinning up lots and lots of nodes and then using those nodes to influence how transactions are processed or which transactions are accepted. They can effectively form a block to censor transactions they don't like, or possibly even conduct double spend attacks. So Bitcoin overcomes this by not having a one node, one vote system, but by you getting votes effectively by spending money on electricity and mining hardware. And the more you spend on your electricity bill and your miners, the more of an influence you have on how data is added to the network. And the idea there is that somebody who has spent a fortune on building up a mining farm has a vested interest in ensuring that the network remains honest, because that ultimately is going to be more profitable for them due to the block rewards in Bitcoin. Now, Stellar doesn't have that, and therefore the Pi network won't have that. And so what Pi has done is they use Know Your Customer in order to identify unique participants on the blockchain and stop Sybil attacks or the creation of sock puppets. And as a result, the Pi network is gathering lots of information about all its users. You have to verify your phone number. You have to go through KYC, which means that they should end up with your email address, your name, your country of origin, maybe even things like your passport. So throwing out anonymity means you're throwing out a significant property of cash or of gold, in that those can be held anonymously. Whereas if you have KYC, then your balance becomes more like a bank balance, in that the authorities behind the system know who you are. Now, some people may think that's not a terrible loss. I'm perfectly happy for the system to know who I am. That's how the banking system works, after all. But it does mean that the system is no longer cash-like. It's more like a traditional payment system. And this user database, well, 14 million or so people have signed up to the Pi network, so the Pi company is sitting on a gold mine. They now have a database with 14 million phone numbers attached to names, email addresses, and so on, and they know that those people are interested in cryptocurrency. So from a marketing perspective, that, and an advertising perspective, that database is worth a fortune. And I would be very surprised if they don't try to monetize this. It's the model that Google and Facebook work on, after all, and they've been very successful with it. So that's another concern that I have. Then a third thing that you have to consider with the Pi network is the very aggressive marketing approach that they have taken. They are using multi-level marketing techniques. In order to join the network, you need to have a referrer. And it turns out a referrer is just a username on the end of a URL, so you can just Google for people who've already signed up and join the network that way. But having a referrer in order to join is a multi-level marketing tactic. They also have different levels in the system. So if you can create what is called a security circle, 2 or 3 trusted close friends, then you get to, in quotes, mine more Pi coins. If you decide to become an ambassador, now there's another red flag, in order to promote the Pi network, then you get even more coins. And these are all multi-level marketing techniques. And obviously they've been very effective, because the user base has grown from virtually nothing to 14 million in a very short period of time. So, you know, hats off to them for their marketing know-how and their marketing execution. But the problem with multi-level marketing is that it lies very close to pyramid schemes. There are valid multi-level marketing schemes out there, such as, for example, Avon, where it's a technique that is used in order to promote the sale of products. But once you're no longer focused on selling products and you're actually focused on gaining more users to your system, then you're moving into pyramid scheme area. And if you look at the Pi network, well, of course, at the moment, they're not really selling a product. Or rather, the product that they're selling are these mined coins that don't even exist on a blockchain yet. And then I also can't help noticing that recently they enabled adverts on their app as well. So there's another revenue stream that they're getting in order to raise money. So all taken individually, they're not so terrible. But I personally have a feeling when I look at the whole thing together that it starts to look a bit off to me. Now, I'm not saying that Pi coins are not going to be worth a fortune in the future. We live in a world where a joke cryptocurrency based on dogs and memes has become quite valuable. So in the crypto world, anything is possible, and that's why I'm not saying don't go enjoy Pi, because I don't want to be blamed later if it does become valuable, that people say, hey, I listened to you, Keir, I uninstalled the app from my phone and now I've missed out on a fortune. But on the other hand, I'm also not saying do go and join Pi, precisely because of all the things I mentioned beforehand. So Kate, that's my summary of the Pi network. Go ahead and use it if you want to, or don't if you don't want to, but these are things I think you should take into consideration before you sign up. So that's today's video. Hope you all found it interesting and useful, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye for now.